Hello, and welcome to episode 69 of the Midlife Pilot Podcast, where we talk all things flying and aviation at midlife. My name is Ben. I'm a commercial rated pilot here in the Atlanta metro area, flying a Cessna 182. Some people call the Beast. As always, tonight we have my friend Brian, a private pilot, living in the heart of Nashville, home of the Bachelorette Super Charlie. He flies a beautiful Cherokee 180 named Lucy. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. How are you? We're both clear of annuals.
We're clear of annuals. It's, as we say in our house, it's a Hanukkah miracle. Also tonight, joining us from Portland, Oregon, the best coast, the West Coast, sport pilot Ted from Portlandia, flying a Flight Design Charlie Tango Lima Sierra, also known as the Egg. Good evening, sir.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. It's more like good afternoon to you.
Exactly.
Sorry about that. I need to be more time zone sensitive.
By the way, the our video intro, at least that the audio people can't see, features a Cessna 140. And I was just thinking, our guest next week is going to be seeing that and go, "Oh, that's my plane."
I was going to say that is literally his. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Very
anyway.
cool. I want to cover our housekeeping. We broadcast live on YouTube, usually every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. The live chat is open for questions and comments. We've got a good crowd in there tonight. The audio podcast is at iTunes, Spotify, and wherever fine podcasts are found. Be sure to subscribe. We would really like it if you leave us a 5-star review. I got a brick of stickers today that I would be happy to send out if you'll leave us a 5-star review. I'm only going to send you one sticker, not the entire pack. We love getting feedback and your suggestions. We've got some feedback to go over tonight, but send us emails, or, you can leave us a voicemail on our website. That website is midlifepilotpodcast.com. And lastly, you can become a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/midlifepilot. And all the links are on our website now. We encourage you to go use it. Also, our fly-in survey is up, and we've gotten a pretty good response so far on that. I'm getting really excited about it.
Yeah. And I also, we got a great email. Somebody let us know that it happens to be that Friday is, was it World Pilot Day?
Yes.
So we accidentally did something of significance.
Yeah, that was Keith C. who said that, which is great.
Yep.
By the way, there's some chatter real quick I just want to address. It's talking about the Midlife Pilot Podcast logo. Captain Todd's wondering, it says it looks kind of like a Mooney. He says he's a little Mooney obsessed right now, so maybe it's a me thing. Well, I think it is not a Mooney. I think it looks like a Comanche to me, actually. But either way, it's missing a propeller, so I don't know.
You have to imagine that the propeller is spinning and it's not visible in sight. And I was thinking more of the Comanche. Yeah. And to me, the Comanche is probably the best looking Piper product that they have.
Yeah.
Ramp appeal.
I agree. Well, real quick, I guess we'll just get to our Patreon business, and then we'll be done with all the housekeeping bit.
Yeah.
Right? So as folks should know, we have a Patreon, and you can go to our website to figure out how to support us, midlifepilotpodcast.com. There's buttons that'll take you the rest of the way. And we have different levels, and it's pretty exciting. Everybody's getting in the Discord, the community's growing, and it's just been amazing. There's a lot of almost programming I'm feeling like that's going on inside there now, because this is not just a chat server, it's like a world, and we've got people doing, whenever a member passes a checkride, we always invite them to do a debrief, and we get all in sort of a video room and record it. And so people can either join it live and ask questions or watch it later. And it seems like almost every night there's something going on. It's just been awesome. So anyway, our Patreon's a pretty hip place to be, apparently, as the kids would say. So, yeah. And then also, there's the Discord, right? Or I'm sorry, how do you people have now, Ted, you've been really good about this, but maybe you can do a brief primer real quick, a little digest quickly on what is Discord and how do you connect it once you become a patron?
Okay, so this is like what's Discord for midlifers, because it's like I think people that are at least a generation younger than us totally know what it is. They use it for gaming and everything else. If you're from the work world, Discord is Slack. It's your communication service.
Or Microsoft Teams. I think there's a lot of people out there using Teams. So yes, sorry.
Unfortunately, yes. So it's a chat server. It has lots of different topic areas. And so we use those to discuss things and announce things and share videos and share pictures and all the things. The real key is you get that when you sign up in Patreon, but you have to go deep into Patreon to make sure to link your Discord account there. So roughly, and please drop us an email if you need any help with this. It's totally fine. Create a Discord account. Just go to discord.com, create an account. Go back to Patreon, go into on the Patreon website, not the app, go into settings and connected apps. And there's a section there for Discord. And so
Awesome.
you hit like link and it'll link Discord to Patreon. You sign up with us, or you already are, and you have your invite to it already. So,
Or you can just email us at pilotpodcast@gmail.com.
And Ben, you actually will go to people's houses and do computer support for them. Is that right?
yeah.
That's really the last measure that it comes to, but God help them if they need me for tech support. I'll send them my sons over there to do it for them. It'll go a lot quicker.
Well, while we're on the topic, let me thank our new Patreons. Patrons, that's always the question, is how to say it. But at the Hershey Bar level, we've got Wooter R, and at Landomatic, we have Jeremy T. So,
Awesome.
yeah, it's nice to have new people joining.
All the time. Love it. So cool. Well, did we explain that this is our happy hour episode, which is just going to be a kind of a freestyle?
We have not explained that yet.
We've done this before.
We've done this. We've got a little feedback to read, and I thought maybe we just play off the feedback. And I've got it pulled up, but Brian, I don't know if you want to take the first one from Keith C, or I'll be happy to.
Where is it?
Oh, he put it in a Word doc. Sorry. I'll go ahead and read it while you look for it.
Oh my gosh. Here we go.
Or Ted can read the second one, but I'll start it off. From Keith C. Really excited about the fly-in. Random note, I just saw online that April 26th is World's Pilot Day. Gives us further excuse to all get together later this month. Keep up the great work on the podcast, and looking forward to meeting everyone in Nashville. That's the other part of the Discord that, beyond what Brian was just saying, there's so much great information, people trading stories, people asking, excuse me, I did this on my landing. Look at this video that I took. And then the support, everybody's super supportive in the Discord. I mean, to a person. It's just such a strengthening group of people. I don't know if that's the right word, but
it's just real supportive. And Ben, you posted one of your landings in there recently, and nobody said a thing. They all said, "Good job."
No, there was like 2 comments, but so every landing. So I've been to all 4 midlife fly-ins, and maybe 5% of my landings have been good, and nobody was in the plane with me. Yet I feel like I'm being very harshly judged, and not maybe it's probably due. I'm probably due to be lambasted like that. But that was one of those landings, and again, it doesn't matter if you have 50 hours, 100 hours, or 1,000 hours. Landings come and go for us all. Yeah. They click, sometimes they don't. And I was nervous about this one because I had read the winds. I wanted to get the plane back.
You hadn't flown in 39 days or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I preach, you need to have outs, whether it's weather, wind, whatever the case may be. The wind was blowing right down the runway where I brought the plane from, and I could just Uber back to my car. So if I didn't like what was going on, I was ready to go around and go back to Paulding. But you could see that windsock. It was dancing all over the place.
Yeah.
And so I was pretty proud of that one.
It was really patient landing.
Yeah.
You had to keep I'll tell you this. Katie and I were sitting around somewhere recently the other day, and she's on her phone, and you had posted this to Instagram, right? So
right.
She didn't tell me, I'm going to look at Ben's landing or whatever. She just was on her phone, and then I just heard her go, whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. I was like, you're watching Ben's landing, aren't you? Like, yeah.
Yeah. So, and in our chat, we have Alpha Juliet. He's the one that shot that video in high def. So thank you, Lord Alpha Juliet. Again, we appreciate it.
Very Not cool. only that, but his video spent a lot of time looking at the windsock. And so it really established this windsock. Not only is it like straight off to the side, but it's also kind of dancing around a little bit. And, you know, the strength of the wind is changing a little bit, but it's like a solid 15 knots right off the side.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the thing sitting outside of Better Call Saul's office, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was awesome. Yep. And now this other feedback, do you want me to read that real quick?
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right. This is from John Tango. My name is John and I live in Gillette, Wyoming. I just wanted to say how awesome your podcasts have been. I am 41 years old and I've decided to go back and finish my PPL after I started 20 years ago. I started my aviation career in rotor. Let's see, I've switched to airplane. I started my ground school and found a school somewhat close to my house. I decided to go clear back to the first episode and listen to every episode start to finish. What an endeavor. And it probably gets confusing when it's like, this is a different, but anyway, all right. Due to my job, I can listen to podcasts all day. Since I work 10-hour days, I'm almost caught up. Just wanted to let you know I'm listening, but I don't get off in time to join the video chat on Tuesdays. Also, I must say I started my flying at 22 or 23 years old, right next to the airport that Ted is at. So I hear all his stories and can follow along in my head with the airports. And then his last missive here is, I think, of importance and directed at me personally. But he says, and Brian, all caps, just say no to White Claws. I love a good whiskey, bourbon, or Scotch whiskey, and I agree. So thank you for that, John Tango.
Great feedback.
Yeah.
To be clear, whiskey, White Claws, it's all just kind of a placeholder for your drink of choice, and it doesn't even have to have alcohol in it. So it's a happy hour. We call it that. Again, doesn't have to be alcohol, but it works out well for us.
But for us, it has to. No, it's you know, I don't go too crazy. I don't do a whole lot, and I don't drink a lot necessarily, but it makes it fun when I do, right?
Yeah.
I really didn't drink a lot until I started co-hosting this podcast.
Well, I think that my midlife experience has been, for whatever reason, it's like you get like the 2 beer hangover. I don't even know how that happens.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like I would have been better off if I would have had 4 or 5. Well,
yeah.
That's just it. You've got to go through the gate to get to the other side.
Yeah, you know, I've got to say, Biff has a great invention here, which is the whiskey claw.
Guess what we'll be trying at the midlife pilot?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Is that a thing? People actually combine whiskey and White Claw?
I don't know, but I'm willing to go for it.
All right. Well,
I've never had a White Claw, so I don't know what it would taste like.
Oh, you're in for a treat, Ben.
You're in for something.
A headache, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Now, when you were in high school, Ben, what were you?
Yeah.
What were you drinking when you were not supposed to be drinking?
Yes. I'll be happy to answer that.
You're like,
because I think the limitations have run out. We had this store that was called Cook's Gold Bloom. It was $1.15 a 6-pack. And if that was unavailable, we drank Milwaukee's Best, and that carried through into college. In college, we drank a lot of the PBR and Coors Light.
By the way, Old Milwaukee is called what?
I know this.
The Beast.
The Beast. Well, Milwaukee's Best is what we call the Beast.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, Milwaukee's Best was the Beast.
Yes.
Nice.
So but that's not the namesake of your airplane.
Serendipitous, and if nothing else,
It's Singer's Best.
That's right. But and it was always out on a logging road somewhere in the woods.
Yeah.
Is where we would hang.
Yeah, back when you could live in a city and there was still a place you could go where no one was or cared. It's probably pretty hard for young people to find places like that now.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we used to do, the field parties. Whose land was this? Right. And
So
what were we doing?
What was your underage drink of choice, Brian?
Same
Allegedly.
thing.
I know what it
underage.
was. It was Natural Light. That's what we were into.
Natty Light.
Natty, but not
No.
Natty Ice.
No, that didn't exist.
Natty
yet.
Light.
Yeah. It was Natural Light. And I don't really know that we ever drank anything else. Much, at least in the beer department. But yeah,
It's funny. We were complaining in college when Milwaukee's Best went up to like $2.30 a 6-pack.
Oh man. Yeah.
Because we were used to like paying $1.80. As college kids, we didn't have any money.
Well, look, we all survived it. That's what matters. That's what matters the most. But
I have a question for you, Brian.
One
Your
little geek
plane
says,
was not an annual as long as mine was. But I'm curious, and I had this discussion with another pilot friend because it had been 35 days since I've flown. But when you take 2 weeks off, 3 weeks off, what do you do different, if anything, when you get back in the saddle, when you get back in the airplane?
outside of just the normal considerations, you mean of like a post-annual, make sure everything's right flight? Do you mean that?
Well, I mean, even for that, it was the post-annual. I mean,
what we did is we took it up. Well, you do the whole thing where you leave all the cowlings off, right? Take it out, run it up, make sure, to kind of do a leak test, and then everything seems like it's good. And then, we both just got in the, both of us owners got into the plane and, but I flew and just did a lot of just taking our time, looking at everything again. Two people looking at gauges and listening for things is always better, I think, than one. So, while I was focusing maybe a little bit more on just the actual flying part, it was nice to have somebody else there that was really hawking everything, because your eyes can only be in so many places at once, right? So that was good. And we just went up and did a few landings. I definitely flew really close patterns, and then just checked everything out. And then, in this particular case, then I left, and then Steve just went back up and did, I don't know, 7 or 8 more laps in the pattern or whatever. But I liked that too, because it allowed me to sort of get out and stop everything for a second after having done just, sort of there's a leak test, then 3 laps in the pattern, but then bring it back in, shut it down right outside the hangar, look at it again.
right.
Is there anything kind of weird going on or anything else leaking or anything? And then, bang it out some more. And then, so there's that part of it, I guess. And then not long after, I took a trip. Oh yeah, this is, I guess maybe of value. You know what? Sometimes even when we're doing happy hour, we can maybe even reflect information or context of some kind of value to pilots, which would be
it's dangerous, but we can approach actual content.
I am on the edge of my seat right now.
Well, it's nothing really huge, but it just occurred to me that it was fundamentally substantive. So I wanted to take a flight. I wanted to go to Reelfoot Lake, which is a state park with just a runway, and there's nothing there, no resources, no nothing. And so I thought, well, I'm not going to just go straight there, right? After, the first long in-cruise flight after annual, I want to make sure I land somewhere where there are resources.
Right.
And so I decided that I would go to Union City, which is Uniform Charlie Yankee. And so I flew there with the intention of just visiting there for a little bit and then carrying on over to Reelfoot, looking around, and then coming back. It's about an hour and 15 minutes each way kind of flight. But I'll tell you this, a couple things. One is when on that flight, if you just go direct enter, you're going to go right over what's called Land Between the Lakes, which is going to give you a good 15 minutes of no place to land, and unless you change your route. So number one is I definitely went to Union City via Mike 34, which is Kentucky Dam, which is a really cool airport. Also a state park, but just in terms of me having a place to land, I wasn't going to land there. And then the other thing was, even though the headwinds were way worse at altitude, the higher you got, the worse it was going to be. I went ahead and took the plane up to 8,500 and wound it out up there for a while, for about half of that run, just so I would have as much altitude as possible. And just to get the plane, just to see if mixture and other sort of finer points were still performing normally, which they were. And then for the second half of the flight, I think I came down to 4,500. And then I made my way to Union City. And by the way, if anybody hasn't been to Union City and you're in this part of the country, you got to go. I had the best experience. I really felt like it was my home airport away from home. They literally rolled out the carpet for me. And it was, so my friend Luke of the YouTube channel, Luke's Landing, Luke, great guy. He was based out of there for a long time. He now lives in Knoxville. I told Luke that I was going to Union City and trying to get some recommendations and some things. And he said, oh yeah, I'll make sure they take care of you or whatever. And of course, one of the guys from Full Stop Aviation comes out, scrambling with a golf cart. He's got a fake, sort of handmade scribbled sign with my last name on it, and, shows it and throws the carpet down. That's clearly like the one that they just pulled out of the FBO floor, it's like, and, did a whole sort of dog and pony show welcome for me. He said that I arrived right at lunch. And if I would have arrived a little bit earlier, they had it all worked out where all of the guys were going to run out and, by Luke's direction, he said that he wanted everybody to run out and pretend like they were filming me and ask for my autograph and all this stuff. So luckily that didn't happen. But anyway, what a great bunch of guys. What a great airport. I got so many stories, so much information, so many cool planes there. Fuel is incredibly cheap. They've got a really great shop. They're inventing things. They're doing upholstery. They've got here's this new fuel sender thing that we're working on, and they're making circuit boards. I mean, just you name it. Those guys are full on aviation nerds in the coolest way. And they 100% took the best care of me. And then I went into town, had an amazing lunch. I just ended up talking with them so long, I never went to Reelfoot because I was just having such a good time being there.
I mean, that speaks more to how great of the place is than anything else. You abandon your original destination just to spend more time there. Yeah, totally.
So, and then when I flew back, I did just kind of the same thing. I flew back at 9,500 and boy, that was fast. And then, everything was fine, but I was just cognizant of the fact that, the annual, while it wasn't particularly invasive or crazy, it just, everything's been touched or, a couple little this and that, was done. And annuals are annuals. So you just gotta not go right back to your normal routine, I think is probably the thing. You got to stage what you're doing.
That's kind of where I was going with it. So our mechanic, they do the run up. He's not a big fan of doing owner assisted annuals, which I'm fine with. And, when you come back to get the plane, when it's signed off, it's ready to go. Now, what I normally do, the airport's pretty quiet. It's, non-controlled, Papa Uniform Juliet. there was 2 or 3 airplanes in the pattern, but I do at least 2 laps in the pattern, A, to kind of get me back in the swing of things, and B, just to make sure everything's running well. The one thing that he did on this annual that really surprised me, it wasn't cheap, but it was worth every dime. And I had never heard of this before, but he called it redressing the prop.
Oh, yeah. Filing
So he filed it down and repainted it. Man, what a difference it has made. It is so much quieter. And I couldn't really tell a difference in performance. The winds that I was fighting was kind of hard to really kind of gauge anything. But there was a significant difference. And even visually, looking out in front of the plane, it's less obstructive as it was before. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. We need to actually paint, I think, the back of our propeller.
So it's probably the balance that changed.
That. I'm sorry.
It's probably the balance that changed.
Yeah. Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt about that. But it's a little quieter, I think.
Yeah.
Especially at lower RPMs.
It's a sharper knife.
It's a sharper knife. It's exactly right.
I was thinking of a pencil where it's, you're at the very end where you're almost putting the metal into the sharpener because you've got this little stub of a pencil, and that's Ben's propeller now. They're like, oh yeah, we shaved off all the all the ugly bits. It's like the propeller's only a foot around now.
Right.
Yeah. God, you're bringing back some pencil sharpening memories. How I was just remembering how the pencil sharpener in the classroom was a beacon of freedom, is what it was, because it would just shine and you would see it, and you know that the only possible reason I would ever have to get up right now to do anything. I see
a new Siskin video coming out calling pencil sharpeners the beacon of freedom.
Yes.
Just a beacon of freedom, plus you would let, and it's kind of like almost like a prison kind of thing, whoever had the desk that was closest to the pencil sharpener, they became kind of the central,
the guardian of freedom.
Yeah. Kind of like they were the, sort of the epicenter of informational dispatch in the classroom.
Right. Because everybody walked past them. And so they always got the little bit of a hangout as they walked very slowly back to their desk. Yeah.
I'd like to reply to a comment from our friend One Dog Geek. Ben, did you do a dynamic balance after dressing the prop? And the answer is no, I did not do a dynamic balance, but my mechanic did. Because I don't think he wanted me doing that. Because
you can do a new balance, but not a.
He did. He's got he does do dynamic balancing of props. He gets a lot of business from doing that. Wow,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, you made it out unscathed.
And I actually took some first time passengers up on Saturday. This young couple that belongs to our synagogue, she wants to become a pilot. And they'd gone up with another friend once, but I decided we were going to go up to the mountains. But as turbulent as it was, we decided to stay out of the hills and went up to Toccoa, Georgia, which is a cute little airport, hung out. I'm sorry, not Toccoa. We went up to Habersham, Alpha Juliet Romeo, and hung out for a little bit. They got a free soda machine, and I let her fly for a little bit, and just had a good time. And still, they weren't as challenging as Thursday, but it was still pretty challenging on Saturday. And I also want to let One Dog Geek know that my services are free at this point in time, and I won't.
For the audio podcast listeners, what is One Dog Geek saying here?
Ben, are you a professional smartass, or do you do that for free?
Okay.
This is one of the services Ben provides.
Yes. Of the many services that are of no value whatsoever.
Well, I'm just glad you made it through the annual all right. And
the wallet hurt a little bit, but that's okay. I feel like what we got, we replaced 2 cylinders last year, and I know that that's important, and I know it's expensive, but it doesn't, you can't really tell a difference in the airplane. Where with a new prop, and we had some other maintenance stuff, our headphone jack got rewired, so there's no really bad static in there. I feel like there's a lot more value to this one based on the money we spent.
perceived value. Yeah, like performance enhancement type of things, right?
Exactly.
Well, that's apparently a thing. But yeah, so for me, I think a little bit of grease on the track for the door, that was nice. Now it slides easier. There was nothing. We didn't get any. It was like
yeah.
We just didn't really need a whole lot, which is great. I mean, we do have a list of things that we've kind of got to do. We've got a Torque Links AD that we've got to comply with in 70 hours. We've got, at some point this year, we're going to need to send our magnetos out. And then what are the other things? There's one other thing. Oh, the landing gear, hardware AD. We kind of have a path to doing that without having to go edit inspection. Unless something egregious reveals itself that I don't think it will. But anyway, so there's still like things that they're not really deferred things, but it's just more about timing. Oh yeah, and the fuel tank refresh. That's the other thing. We didn't get to that. We were hoping to, but we just didn't get to that. So we've got all the kit, we've got all the hardware. So we're gonna have more outages, or downtime. But it's really a process. But one of the things that I'm just so grateful that the engine. Honestly, everything else can be just whatever. We'll figure it out. But as long as the engine is good, and I know that compressions are not exactly the rule of the land or anything, but they were all basically 78 or 79, and no visible defects. There's a little bit of pitting from the previous owners who didn't fly it as much as they should, but it's not bad. And ultimately, the engine runs great, so I don't care.
I want to let our audio listeners know we've got some great stuff going on in the chat. Captain Todd says, I got a new exhaust system out of my annual, and I kind of miss the old one. Is that weird? And then our friend Biff B asked, what do you miss? And the reply was the $2,500.
Yes.
So if you would tune into our live chat, you would get to witness that in person.
So my milestone this week was I did my BFR.
Oh,
I've been trying to get together with this CFI for like 2 months now. And weather plus timing has made that difficult. He's done some NAFI presentations, so he's kind of on the Nate Ballard level of like, this guy's actually kind of legit, unlike us, right? It's like, this guy knows what he's doing. And so it was great to get him in the plane for the first time. And, it's like, okay, I've talked to you for years. We've never flown together. So let's set up this initial date, and you're sitting in my plane, and let's set up all your, all the electronics, and let's do all this.
Was he familiar with your plane at all?
He was not. Yeah. Okay. So he'd been in an RV-12, so something in the same category at least, but not the CT. So yeah, we went up, and the comment that I liked out of that was, he's like, how many hours do you have in this? I'm like, 250. Let's just say that it's only been 250, but he's like, oh yeah, it shows. I was like, oh, okay, I'll take that as a compliment. Like he thought I knew how to fly it. Like, wow, okay, I'll take that as that's a huge confidence booster in my opinion. Yeah.
Were you at all nervous?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I would have been too. I didn't mean that in a judgy way, but
no,
you can't fail a BFR, technically speaking.
Right.
I mean, they can recommend you go get more help, but it's still a test of sorts. I mean, you want to do well in front of the person you're flying with, because they know what the heck they're talking about. It's not like having a non-pilot passenger.
Yes.
So there's that kind of that pressure. And when you get that kind of feedback, it's very gratifying.
I've pretty much in the last year only flown with myself as far as other pilots are concerned, right? I've had my CFI Sam in there when I was having trouble figuring out how to land it, but I haven't done a lot of flying with other pilots besides that. I guess Grizzly was in it with me. But you don't have any good comparisons.
Right.
You're not spending enough time with someone else who knows you are playing. Like when you're with a CFI and they demonstrate stuff to you and you have that comparison. And so it's like, as far as I know, my skills are terrible now. And my only comparison is myself and what I remember of my own skills. So am I doing worse? There's just nothing to compare it to. So,
well, if you're landing and you're able to use the plane again, and I wouldn't call it terrible. It may not be good, but I wouldn't call them terrible.
Did you have a specific outcome or focus area or point of analysis you wanted him to work with you on?
This was really just a baseline flight. And I said that to him. I have a list. I'm not going to tell you what the list is until afterward because I don't want to work on this stuff yet. But certainly the things that we're going to work on are loss of thrust on takeoff and a lot of trim failures because I've got electric trim. And I want to know at altitude what it's like when it goes all the way to one extent, all the way to the other extent. And I want to land with those. And I'm not willing to do that alone. There's a lot of things that I'll experiment with on my own, like, testing best glide speeds. I'm not going to sit there and blow up my trim and do that by myself. So,
well, it makes sense. It's like, I want to go up with BFR to work on trim stalls. So what am I going to do? Like practice ahead of time doing a bunch of trim stalls?
Yeah. So, yeah.
But you're the only one with the control. There's not a stick for him, is there?
No. So I put the stick back in because you actually cannot receive instruction with only one stick.
I was wondering about that.
It's a throw over. And trust me, I've looked at it really close to make sure that whether that was an option or not. But yeah, I have the stick in about half the time, the passenger stick. So
that's actually, Nate Ballard did that whole recent NAFI thing. Was it NAFI or no, it was something else, but it was around, just having students that freeze up on the controls.
Yep.
I never even thought about teaching in a Bonanza with the throw over.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
Think about
karate chop them in the throat and then
think about learning in a single passenger or a single seat plane, right? Not a Cub with two seats, but imagine single seat. It can be done. And it's just wild to think about.
Well, your BFR was good and you had a good experience with this guy.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I want to give a quick shout out. Nate just released a video about the eclipse. So his videos always take a different path than what you normally see from other CFI videos. And that's one of the great things I love about it. So Nathan Ballard, search him on YouTube and go check that out.
The link will be in the description of this podcast. And to be more specific, he's talking about pilot considerations for the upcoming eclipse. Which, hey, I would love to talk a lot about, but we try to keep this show a little bit evergreen. And I can't imagine maybe we should just have like a whole show that's just, let's talk about the eclipse. Let's talk about cicadas. Let's talk about,
well,
purely eclipse flying.
To be fair, our friend Nathan does a lot of services for us in helping a lot of the people in the forum. Yeah. So I wasn't going to go down that rabbit hole of the evergreen stuff and just try to promote his channel somewhat. So
no, but he knocked together and I say knocked together on purpose, but he put together a video on eclipse flying and things to think about. And the reason I say knocked together is because his goal was to put it out in 24 hours. And I'm working on a video that I've been working on for weeks. Doing that is fantastic.
Hey, so I'm working on a video that I've been working on for about 18 months. So
yes,
I think I got you all beat. And it's going to be hugely disappointing, I'm sure. Actually, I did pick up some footage and the outline is starting to appear. Yes, Ben Singer may be posting his 4th YouTube video ever.
4th. Yeah.
This is huge.
Yeah. That's literally 33% more than you had on there before. Yeah.
Massive growth.
Yes.
That's awesome. I like the videos you make, Ben.
Yes.
They're so rare that it's always that much more, special. It's exciting.
I'm building the anticipation. That's my goal.
Yeah. Well, in terms of video making and all that, I feel like that I feel like the biggest slacker in the world when it comes to filming flights. I've regressed to the point where I just throw the one camera up. I just don't even want to deal with it. But I do want to have something. I want to have a record of it. But I don't have a battery that'll run very long, so I don't. It's just. And then meanwhile, Ted, your videos have gotten to the point where it feels like an IMAX experience with with heads up displays and data and just all this. It's you've gone next level.
I was just rendering one out with a VSI indicator on there, and I was like, it's too distracting. So that's when you know you've gone too far.
That's funny. My mechanic was. I forget we were talking about something about VSIs. And he's like, you don't need it.
No.
I don't even know why that is. It's like, he's like, you don't need it.
Yeah.
But Rob Knight is saying here, I passed my check ride in December 2023 and had mostly flown by myself since then. After a couple of 1 to 2 week breaks, I decided to go up with my CFI last week just to get a brief flight review, which is different than a biennial,
yeah.
but it's still a BFR.
No, that's for awesome. BFR. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. That's why I highlighted that. I think that's awesome. I think you start to build the habits start sinking in a lot deeper with the more hours that you build.
Yep. I
would have done the same thing if I was you. If it had been just a few months since I passed my check ride, but at 1,000 hours now, I still. Where I was getting at when I originally asked that question to you, Brian, is I read every line on every checklist. I am super attentive to it. And I'll be honest, if I've flown 12 hours in the last 2 days, I'm still going to check go through the checklist, but I'm not going to read every letter of every word. I'm making sure everything is done that needs to get done. But I am super careful on my pre-flight. Again, those habits sink in over time. But as a newer pilot, I've done that. I've done the same thing. Called up a friend that's a CFI. Hey, I haven't flown in 3 weeks. I was at 80 hours, 90 hours, whatever it was. And I was like, can you come up with me? He's like, absolutely. And I applaud that. I think that's great.
Yeah, actually, I was just thinking recently, even maybe yesterday, I was just thinking that I wanted to go up, with this instructor that I used for my BFR, and I did my BFR, I guess 6 months ago or whatever it was, and I just thought I was just thinking the next time I'm up at the airport, I want to see if she's available, and just go up with no agenda, because the last time we had all these things we were doing. We were doing loss of thrust on takeoff. We were doing impossible turns. We were pulling power on the crosswind. We were doing all this. Going out and checking, how much altitude do you lose if you do a 15-degree bank, and, just all this kind of stuff. It was very busy the whole time. And I just thought, you know what, almost as a weird delayed kind of follow-up to the BFR, just to say, hey, can we just go do some laps in the pattern or something, or maybe just go fly over to this airport and come back or something. It seems like maybe kind of a waste to some people, but it's really just for me to have exactly that, like some sort of an external thing that can check me. Because she always finds some little, even if it's like, hey, the way you have this set up in here, or, I don't know, she'll find something, and that's what I want, just anything.
Yeah. Rob Winston and CFI attention after passing your check ride can be a daunting period.
Yes,
that's totally true. And Biff went on to talk about that in the comments. He's also kind of in this post check ride period, and I think especially like post check ride in the winter, like is even worse. So yeah, that's you've gone from kind of somebody watching over you to nobody's watching you. And do I know what I'm doing? Do I just go fly the plane like that? Yeah, that's a weird period. going to play a clip from one of the checkride debriefs that we did a little while back.
In the Discord.
So we record these checkride debriefs, but we don't actually share them. So they're not on YouTube or anything else. The reason we do that is, well, first of all, we record them so we can find neat little clips out of them. But we don't share them because we want it to be an opportunity to kind of talk about your own weaknesses and about how you felt about the DPE and things like that. And it'd be hard to be totally honest with it if you knew it was going to be public.
And then we take all of those insults about the DPE and we publish them in clips, and you're going to play one now.
Straight to the DPE. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, I get it. Yeah. Private.
So this is the clip that I pulled.
We did have a little issue with ATC coming back in. So we were in the northeast practice area for the airport. And the maneuvers were complete. We were making our calls coming back into the airport and getting closer and closer to the edge of the Delta. And after 2 calls, we weren't getting any acknowledgement. And there were other planes in the same practice area that were being acknowledged and getting their clearances for the arrivals. So then we started going down the lost comms checklist at that point. It turned out they were just busy and ignoring us. But at that point, I ended up flying a 360 sort of at the edge of the practice area before getting into the busier area towards the Delta. And that worked out just fine. We eventually got her clearance to come back in, but she commented on that also. She's like, if I could throw that situation in every one of my check rides, I would make a point to do so. So that I ended up getting positive marks on dealing with that. And I think the reason for that is we've had a lot of comms issues just throughout my training.
There are a million things that happen like that are just the idiosyncratic, somewhere between a problem and not types of things that you only, that's really getting one of those experiences that you just get after you get out into the wild a little bit and you just suffer through. But to get that at that phase and in that environment is got to be, and then to get that positive feedback has got to be hugely valuable.
To have anything come up on your check ride that you don't have to experience it's like, oh man, you don't need anything else that is overwhelming, is a distraction, anything like that. So to deal with that, and that's at BFI, it's at Boeing Field in Seattle, crazy busy area, and even just doing a check ride out of there is crazy. So really well done on that. In fact, you know who did his ground mock check ride? Bruce Williams, the dude who was heavily involved with Microsoft Flight Simulator, and he posts a bunch of videos. So it was like, wow, that's a big name. So yeah,
that's very cool.
Ben, have you done any IFR flying since annual?
No. Today was the absolute perfect IFR day. But as Ted told me yesterday, work is getting in the way of a lot of things here lately, and he wants to have a chat with me about that.
Yes.
So, and today was another good day for IFR, but I went up with AJ a couple weeks ago before we put it in annual, and we knocked out 4 approaches. So I'm current, and I still feel like I'd probably be proficient, but I do want to go up when it's in marginal VFR. The ceilings were at 2,800 on 1,000-foot elevation runway. That's putting it,
1,800. Yeah,
it was like ripe for some approaches, but I couldn't get out.
What does it need to be to count? It has to be at the final approach fix?
That's right. You need to be within the final approach fix. I'm sure somebody will correct me in the chat if I'm wrong.
Where's Mark when we need him?
Yeah, exactly.
And what is the FAF at that airport?
I'm sorry, what's the what? What
is the final approach fix at that airport?
Albert's is...
what elevation?
I'm trying to remember.
Okay.
I think it was it's at 1,700 feet. AJ's in the chat. He'll correct me if I'm wrong. 1,700 or 1,800.
I thought for IFR you had to memorize every chart.
You did, just for the test. Then you could forget it all. Yeah. So just like you do all the other regs and all the other check rides.
Unload the brain and get going.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, there's a great discussion in the comments about not having to do BFRs because you're doing follow-up check rides. So Mark was able to avoid that with his check rides.
So does a tailwheel endorsement count as a BFR?
No, it's got to be a rating.
That's what I didn't think an endorsement count, but I wasn't sure.
Seaplane rating. Basically, think of it as just something where there's an actual check ride.
Got it.
Yeah, I've always thought that I do that with glider. Although, yeah, I think that counts, and that'd be a fun one. It's like instead of doing a BFR, go play in gliders for a little bit and pass that. Kind of a nice weekend thing.
I do feel like there's maybe a case to be made for do something though that's if you've been flying for 2 years, if you just a lot of us are new pilots.
Oh man,
that first BFR is really like we were talking about. It's really that opportunity to get like check yourself before you wreck yourself kind of evaluation. And so while you can, and a lot of people obviously go and do get more ratings, and that's 100% fine. But if you're not, to then go off and do seaplane or something, I don't know, like you're missing it. If you still do that, but just don't. I would recommend if whatever plane you're actually flying and your normal environment, get somebody to look at what you're doing after a couple of years.
That's right.
Yeah.
And AJ corrected me. Alpha Juliet corrected me. Albers is at 3,000 feet. But there's some fixes beyond the final approach fix for missed approach points that I was thinking of. So the ceiling was below 3,000 for sure. So I'm anxious
Mark,
to get back out there. And also want to remind everybody real quick, you need to see the runway. This is from One Dull Geek. Sorry. You need to see the runway or a bunch of other things inside the final approach fix.
It's like the rabbits and all those other bright shiny lights that are meaningless to us.
That's right.
Speaking of Mark, we've got another clip from him to play. Another rant.
Hoping for that.
Yeah. So,
another geek rant.
Yeah. This one was sitting in the cellar and was getting dust on it, and I forgot that it was there. And so let's pull this one out. This is great.
Ben, Ted, Brian, I would like another word. And today, that word is Zulu. Since humanity started tracking time, one thing has proven common. Noon is when the sun is the highest in the sky. So, we each have our own time zone to ensure that we all get to identify noon when the sun is at its peak, because heaven only knows what calamity would fall if we couldn't do that. The universally recognized base of all human time is in Greenwich in the United Kingdom. Oh, excuse me. Despite being spelled like Greenwich, for some reason only known to people from England and Boston, it's pronounced Greenwich, with an extra E and an entirely superfluous W. Don't even get me started on Worcester. Dear old and New Englanders, can I introduce you to Hooked on Phonics? Anyway, I suppose it's appropriate that Greenwich has unnecessary letters given that it's the very center of unnecessary time zones. What is so great about the sun's highest point being called noon? Especially since it's almost never actually true. Unless you live at exactly the correct position within the time zone, it isn't actually at its highest point at noon. East of whatever magical and unknown position that is, the sun peaks a little later than noon. West of the center, and it peaks a little before noon. Or is it the other way around? I don't know. I live in the US in the Eastern time zone, which means that for part of the year, I'm 4 hours behind Greenwich. And as if by magic, during the winter, we're suddenly 5 hours behind. Did the distance between the United States and the United Kingdom change? Of course not. We just threw in an extra crazy rule for fun. By far, the single worst part of time zones is daylight savings time, which is named that despite making it darker earlier. Oh, but think of the farmers! Sure, maybe that was something to be worried about when 80% of the population was in agriculture. But today it's about 2%. We're supposed to just bend down to them? I've tried converting myself to Zulu time. I'd much rather call noon when everyone else around me is saying 8 a.m., but it sure causes a lot of confusion. Hey, Ted, Ben, and Brian, I'll see you at 1 a.m. tomorrow morning for the podcast tonight. There's just no way to have a single time zone. Unless you're in aviation, where everyone uses Zulu time.
Concord information from Romeo, time 2150 Zulu.
Albemarle, Stanley County Airport. Automated weather observation 2241 Zulu.
Clearance void if not off at 8 minutes at 1750.
This is great, except for the fact that I'm so completely a nerd in the broken time zone system that my consistent reaction is, what freaking time is it? Since everyone uses time zones, no one can figure out what time 1537 Zulu is where they live, although I'm sure it's on the E6B somewhere. Now I realize that everyone converting to Zulu time is a big ask. Back when I was a wee lad, we were told in school that we were going to convert to the metric system. Now, of course, that didn't happen, but I think it's because we didn't just ask to convert one thing. We had to convert distance, volume, and weight. The conversion to Zulu is just one thing, and we aren't changing the length of an hour. We're just shifting where it starts. Surely we can pull that off. And yes, I realize that I'm not just asking the US to make this conversion, I'm also asking the entire world to do it. Here's the thing though, if the US converts, I bet everyone else will follow. Have you ever noticed that no matter where in the world you go, they also speak English? That's because the United States has all the money, and they want some of it. And it's going to be quite a bit more difficult to get some if they can't communicate with us. Imagine if we started using only Zulu time. Let's meet to conduct our gigantic money transaction at 3 a.m. Zulu. You bring the contract and I'll bring the boatloads of money. I think they'll figure it out. Okay, I don't actually think that using monetary imperialism to force others into what we want is a good idea. I'd just like to spend a little less time trying to calculate the time. We all have a universal clock. 60 seconds to a minute, 60 minutes to an hour, 24 hours to a day. Would it be that terrible if we had a universal time zone? Okay, thanks.
All right. Well done, Mr. Geek.
That was so well said.
My favorite thing about it is it actually created some semblance of cohesiveness between the absent-minded nature of our title of this episode, which is just merely happy hour, bookended with this time conversations. Perfect, man.
Also, he is definitely the first to mention monetary policy on this podcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
We wouldn't let a lot of people get away with mentioning monetary policy, but One Dog Geek is definitely has permission to do so.
We finally reached imperialism, so let's just. No, that was great. Thank you so much for those. I love the Andy Rooney. It's almost like the final word. Is there a title for that segment?
At the end of 60 minutes. Yeah.
No, I'm talking about.
Send us your feedback. Geek. What should we title this segment? Everybody listening out there, I don't know if we need to pay Mark to do this more often, but it is quickly becoming a very, very fun segment, and I'm enjoying it immensely.
Fantastic. Well, we got to talk about the fly-in real quick, right?
Yep. Thank you. April 26th through the 28th in Nashville, Tennessee, the Nashville Fly-In, John Toon Airport. Juliet Whiskey November. There are a lot of details on our website at midlifepodcast.com. We've got a lot of destinations, a lot of different places that you can go to. We have a link to our hotel. And right now there is probably still some rooms left where we've got a discounted rate. You can click on the link and it will take you directly to it and you can book it. What else am I missing? We got about 26 people, I think, that have committed to come at this point.
And those people are bringing people. So it's going to get crazy. I'm super excited.
26 people responding to the survey. And by the way, that survey is also on our website. So if you are coming, please fill that out so we can get a better idea of the head count.
So we know exactly how many people we are going to let down.
Next week, we're going to be doing some tail wheel talk with CFI Ben. I know One Dog Geek and I have been kicking around, maybe starting that here pretty soon. So that'll be on episode 70. So I hope you'll join us for that. Anything else, guys, that you'd like to add?
No, I just really appreciate everybody hanging out and sticking with us and listening to the show and being patrons and keeping this thing going, coming to the fly-in. It's going to be it's just going to be awesome to hang with everybody. So I'm just real pleased with how everything's gone. And you guys came on what, episode 40?
That's correct.
Yeah. So I mean, think about it. You're what, 29 in now?
Yeah.
Starting to get, a little comfortable.
Finding my feet a little bit. Ted's a lot better at than I am, but that's
what episode number is this?
69.
Nice.
There we go.
I just had to do it.
We had to get that one in there. Yeah. All right, signing off. Which episode, Ted?
69.
Have a good night, everybody.